morning.
Hello, Karine. Really nice to get a chance to talk with you. I'm doing really well. It's the start of Christmas period soon. Everyone's anticipating that, so it's a bit nerve-wracking when everything's in confinement with the COVID. So
it's true, and I see you're ready with your nice sapin. It's a real one, a real what is it?
Yeah, it's a Christmas tree that we went up north and cut it in our property. So I just put some lights on it, so it's very natural.
It creates some ambience.
Very natural. Yeah, it brings some just some Christmas mood in a very subtle way. I haven't got all my decoration. I just moved into the apartment less than a month ago, so it's everything's getting prepared here. Yeah.
Yeah, same here. I'm really happy that you accepted to meet me to discuss your amazing project that you've been working on for a while now. I'm very pleased to present you to our group, the Conscious Strategists. We are all keen into learning about a new project about sustainability and protecting our nature, earth, and also la faune and the turtles and any animals that we can think about. But your project is really specific to turtles right now, although you have been working into different specialty that you will let us know soon into the interview. But John, please tell us your last name so I don't misspell your pronunciation. So.
My name is John Bonardelli. So I was born in Montreal, and I've actually first time in my life moved back to the city. So
yes,
that's quite
that's
nice.
right. That's right. You were saying that you were moving back, and you can tell us also that you moved back from Norway. You worked in Norway for quite a long time. So John, I'll let you explain us what is your biography. You know, what was your professional path that brought you into your beautiful project, the Nesting Safe. But first, I'll let you explain our Conscious Strategists. What is your professional path?
Well, I guess life is just accumulation of experiences, right? So there's nothing that's every little bit counts in building how you are. I think I grew up as an entrepreneur. My father was an entrepreneur and represented 30, 40 manufacturing companies in furniture. And so at a young age, we were working for my father with him, going to expositions. He was representing the Maritimes, Newfoundland, and Labrador and Saint-Pierre-Miquelon. So, he was very independent. And at a young age, we understood what it was like to have this client sort of relationship, this one-on-one aspect. I guess one of the most important things I still hold today in my teams is that, an hour worked is an hour paid. So there's no, people have value. And if you want to get value out of people, I think there has to be some way to return that in a way. No, so I don't know. I started out working for my father, and then always combining, in a sense, traveling and sport, and traveling and eating good food. My father liked good food as well, and my mother cooked really well. So that has always been part of that combination of life, But I grew up in the countryside, actually, Montreal and up north.
Yes.
So where I got this Christmas tree on my mother's property, and even my grandfather at the time was going these long walks and appreciating nature and the value of the habitat within an environment. And I think that really molded me without actually understanding why. So when I was starting university, I ended up working, I started university in marine ecology, marine biology.
In Quebec? In Quebec City?
In Ontario.
Oh, in Ontario.
I did my bachelor's.
Is in Université Laval in Quebec City.
That's right, in marine ecology. Okay. So working out there in Guelph, actually, where it's one of the oldest veterinary colleges in Canada. They also had aquariums and seals, because they also had a very interesting approach to life, to professional work, which had always stayed with me wherever I've done, is that, wherever you go, you still have to take some mode of transport, either a plane or a bus or a long drive somewhere. So actually, Guelph is really strong in working in the Arctic, and they had seals in the fields over there in tanks. And I always held that with me. So wherever I've been working, I've always had a sort of a central location, and from there I would take a plane or a car and travel outwards towards people I work with, and which led me to travel around the world. So, I guess before I go to what I'm doing today, there's sort of a process which is really interesting, because I ended up working on the oil rigs in Canada for 2 years, 2 summers. And what that did really, apart from discipline, is understand what risk management is with heavy machinery and people's lives. I mean, there are accidents there all the time. There were when I was there. And it's really about having safety in people is not about as much negligence as about having great managers, people you're working with that are looking out for their employees or their teams.
Yes.
And especially with heavy machinery, because that carried on later for what I've done. Worked in hotels, managed a hotel in the Gas Bay when I finished my bachelor's degree in Ontario. I traveled out west, and I said I should go know my own province, and I ended up roller skiing around the Gas Bay, because I was training for the provincial and then national cross-country ski teams in Canada.
Wow.
In the late 70s and 80s. And I guess if I ever think of something I've done that was really great, is participating in the World Cup cross-country skiing in Yukon, so that with the Russians and all the world top skiers. And that was a really good experience. Yeah.
Wow.
Because I think, sport's really important, because it also develops your ethos, or the way you see life. You can't win a race just because you want to go. You can't go to the Olympics because it's a great thing to be. You got to train. It's a process. You need structure. You need good coaching.
Yeah.
And if you want to succeed in life, I think it's not just this one moment thing. It's a process. Yeah. And that journey is what creates a success. And you have failures, and failures really another way of taking an approach that'll make you improve and go towards your ultimate goal. But totally. So that has a lot of meaning to me, is accomplishing that, racing at that high standard and high level, and understanding what good teamwork is, and the sort of what competition really means. You're never the best. You're just the best for yourself. So if you spend your life comparing yourself to everyone else, you start losing focus on what you're able to do just on your own. So and those principles, I think, do help in establishing how you build a company, and how you manage companies and manage people. Yeah. It's so easy to get bogged down or distracted by who's doing something better than you. You lose focus.
That's true. That's true. When you
compare. Yeah, when you compare, it's fun. It's okay. But really, what it really counts to is having goals that are really clear and working towards those. And if you're consistent and persistent, then you can succeed. It may take later, it may come sooner. Some people it happens in a year, others it happens in 5 or 10. But it really depends on what your object is and what your challenges are, and they're very specific.
Yeah. Your purpose.
And so what your purpose. Yeah. So I guess. What's interesting is that in the 80s, I moved to the Gas Bay, because I was a marine biologist. So I said, okay, I'll go there. I'm going to work and see what it's like. And I ended up
in Quebec. In
the Gas Bay, Quebec.
Because we've got people from all over the world. So
imagine it's 1,000 kilometers east of Montreal.
Yeah.
It's a 10-hour drive, and along the Gulf St. Lawrence. So there's a lot of whales there. There were tuna fishing at the time, and. South of that, if you go straight south, it's New York City in 12 hours. So the Gas Bay is where I ended up being and managing a hotel, and then I realized I should do something with marine ecology, and so I started pioneering scallop culture, and ended up having a lot of employees and developing offshore scallop culture, and one of the toughest environments in the world, because there's drift ice, icebergs, small icebergs. Remnants of hurricanes from the Atlantic coast, and so big waves and sudden waves, and deep water right not far from the coast. So by developing the scallop culture operations and submerged long lines, I ended up pioneering a very successful operation, but also realized that it's not profitable in northern countries. But I shifted the technology from scallops to mussel culture, and ended up having a commercial farm and selling in Europe and Toronto, Montreal, a really high quality product. And things happened that were out of our control, and provincial and so on. But through that whole business cycle, where we had investors, we had an IPO, we work with government, so I was there, 12, 15 years, and realized one thing is that if you have a good idea, you can change the world. You can impact the whole country. You can impact the way governments work, the way the regulations are, and so on. And that was a big impetus. And mobilize, from an idea, you can mobilize the whole population. That was a really interesting lesson for me. But in that process, in the 80s, I ended up saying, well, if I'm going to grow mussels or scallops in the sea, you need to know when the baby scallops or the larvae are going to attach to your lines. And I ended up doing a master's and then a PhD on that. So, what were the factors, everything about the sex life of scallops really is what were the factors that control spawning, and therefore, how do you predict where and when those larvae are going to attach on your lines?
I see.
And I'm just saying that now it's not what I'm doing now, but it's a really interesting sort of precursor to what I'm doing now, is the where and the when.
I see. It would be interesting to know more about the first project you've done. Yeah. Today we'll talk more about the nesting safe, but into another interview we can go deeper into that project. And that's quite interesting and sustainable, as you were explaining me. So very, very efficient in terms of sustainability. So I'll take note. We should do a second interview with you, John.
All right. Yeah, about the sex life of scallops. It's actually quite interesting.
That will be
where and why. So what was interesting in this process is working with the government and fighting with the government sometimes, a whole team of us. I ended up working with the same government in Quebec, the MAPAC, and that was a really good experience because one, I had an incredible boss. I was living in the Gas Bay. Actually, where Canada was discovered is where I was working at the end in the late 90s, mid 90s, in the Gas Bay Peninsula, in Gas Bay, and worked with the government. So it was funny because in 83, my first job in the government was being one of the first inspectors going around the whole coast of Quebec, which, in the old days, they used to harvest the cod that were over a meter long with pitchforks. Okay. And then the whole regulations came in on security and safety and food safety. And so they eliminated pitchforks and started getting to following the cold chain in seafood. And so I was one of the first people in Quebec to be on that team. And then, in 1995 to 97, I ended up going back and working for the government again. And that was really interesting as a scientific advisor in aquaculture for Quebec. And, but then working with private companies, I said, I got to do more with the offshore aquaculture, and started traveling around the world, really. Basically, since 83, I've been traveling around the world, different conferences and sampling and understanding what's happening and being in the field. Okay. So, but that led me actually to move to Norway in 2000 for some trips, and then actually moving there in 2002. So I spent 16 years in Norway.
16 years.
Wow. 16 years, yes, with my girls and that were born there basically and grew up there. And understanding the culture, and then because of that as a foothold, then of course traveling through Europe and working with different people, but so then it comes towards the turtles here, nesting safe, I guess. Is that
explain us how your concept appeared in your mind, how it actually really was coming all together, this idea.
Well, just before the turtles, I was a consultant, international consultant for offshore aquaculture in Shellfish, so that's my expertise. And then I developed a company called Fishing Safe, where we developed this tracking system for the small boats in Norway. So basically along the Norwegian coast, there's hundreds of companies that rent out these 7-meter aluminum boats, outboard motors. Yes. And so the East Europeans many times would come up the coast of Norway, rent the boat, spend a week there, fish off the coast, because Norway, there's so much fish. It's like these Jacques Cousteau movies, the fish jump in the boat, literally. There's some places that I've been where they literally nearly jump in the boat. I mean, you can't pull the rod out fast enough. It's incredible.
Happened to me, actually, in the Everglades in Florida.
It's amazing. So I developed this company and started selling this product where we put trackers on the boats, and you could basically see where all your boats were, and if there was a problem, they could communicate by message, and then the owner of this rental company would be able to see where all the boats are and guide them back. And then in 2014, I was on a trip to Turkey, and I wanted to explore the country. I said I'll go for 2 weeks on the beaches and see the coast. And I ended up finding out, well, you couldn't walk the beach at night. And I was really shocked. So I started communicating with these beach organizations because I found out that they were turtle nesting sites.
I see.
And they said, well, no, you can't walk the beaches at night because the turtles are nesting. I said, why don't you come over, John, and come and see what it's about? Because I already thought that there was a technology I could bring in there and digitize, in a sense, what they were doing on paper. Because I've been sampling all my life on the coast, so I had a good idea, you know.
You knew about it, okay.
Yeah, excuse me. My nose is itchy. So I realized that I could really have an impact there. And I didn't know much about turtles. The only time I'd seen them when I was diving off Cozumel, and then saw one at 50 feet in depth that's swimming by. It's beautiful. And even being a marine ecologist, you're not aware of everything in the sea. But so I right away came up with a solution, having a mobile app and a dashboard and a database structure. And in a couple of months, I did this with a partner, and by 2015, we were selling our product.
Wow.
And and then starting going to all the conferences and traveling there and visiting and validating the product on the beaches. So that was starting to really come to light. The thing is, it was difficult for me as a non-Norwegian to really get the financing we needed, So
difficult.
And we wanted our girls to learn French, so we decided to come back to Montreal. So that was in 2017. Yeah, and so our lovely. So they speak 3 languages fluently, and it's really great, And then the greatest thing that happened really coming back, and when I was officially here in 2018, is that my idea, my company was accepted at Santec, which is an accelerator in Montreal, part of the ETS, and also District 3 from Concordia. And so there I started meeting a lot of people because I hadn't been in Montreal for really 35 years. And so then I got part of this community and got support and met the banking institutions and Deloitte and got a lot of support from the surrounding organizations helping startups. And we incorporated the company in 2018. And at Santec, I met my partner there, and then we started building a team. And now we've got basically we've created a asynchronous distributed system, which is basically whether your app or your dashboard or your instrumentation can work independently, and you can, all these different packages can be just added on to, and everything seamlessly connects together to allow you to collect your nest observations in an aggregator, to connect calipers to the aggregator via wireless calipers. And we've also been developing basically a communication hub where we connect to the GPS, the satellites, the GNSS, and we're able to get accurate, high precision GPS positioning.
Okay.
And we can also communicate with these environmental sensors we've developed that are totally wireless. So basically our sensors can be buried in the ground a meter deep and can read the data on demand. So this whole distributed communication system allows us to collect all the relevant information that are important for helping organizations save turtles from extinction.
Yeah.
And it's really happening now. Yeah.
And if I understand correctly from discussing before the interview, you explained me that it was done manually on paper by volunteer.
Yes. So around the world, what happens to date is that people go with notebooks and pads, and they or a template they have, and they write down all the information, where the nest is, how deep it is, what turtle species, what type of habitat, and so on. But of course, when in every country they hire local people, and then they have students coming from different countries to volunteer and partake in this sort of, because it's fascinating to see this large creature that's 200 million years old, over 100 million years old, climb up on a beach and lay its nest. And so we basically moved the industry, or we're attempting to do that from paper to digital.
I see. It makes total sense, yes.
Yeah. So that's what the mandate is really, again, and this is where I come back to what I did at first, so the mission here is to be able to help these organizations that are managing the beaches. They're given the right by government. So we basically provide the tools to help them know where and when the baby hatchlings are going to emerge from the nest. Because again, comes back to what the where and when, because what's important is when the hatchlings come out, you want to be there that evening to make sure they make it to the sea.
Because you need to protect them, right? Because they can
That's right.
be caught by birds or any other animals.
Predators, and fish in the sea. And what happens, only 1 out of 1,000 hatchlings makes it to adult life.
How many?
So if there's 1 out of 1,000.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. So if there's about 100 eggs per nest,
okay,
right? That means there's for every 10 nests, only 1 baby is going to make it to adulthood.
Unbelievable.
Right?
And what is considered adulthood?
Well, they start maturing about 20 years.
Okay. Wow.
So what happens, and this is where global warming is a real issue, because usually in every population species, you have a male and a female, of course, and what they think is that it takes 1 male can reproduce about 2 or 3 females.
Okay.
It takes a lot of energy, of course, right? Because they're fighting in the sea, they're climbing on their back, and then other turtles come and climb on the back, and sometimes you have 3 or 4 turtles stacked trying to reproduce.
Okay.
And but what's happening with global warming is that, and they realize it's been going on for at least a decade, is that the beaches are obviously warm in the daytime, but at night they're not cooling down enough. So at 30 degrees, if the nest during incubation is cooler than 30, they produce male turtles. And if it goes higher than 30 degrees, produces females.
Oh.
And now because of global warming, you're having up to 100% of eggs being born that are only females.
Really? Okay.
On entire beaches.
Wow.
And in areas where there's a lot of pollution on beaches, or sometimes just a lot more rain than there was before, the nest is sort of shaded all the time and only males are being produced.
Okay.
And the problem is turtles go back to the same beach to lay their eggs.
It's true.
So if there's no more males fertilizing the females, you're not going to have any, sustainable system left over in several generations. So what we've developed is the ability to have wireless sensors that go into the nest.
Yes.
And you can read the temperature at a distance.
Okay.
Whenever you want, as opposed to sensors that you have to pull out at the end of the nesting season. Of course, then you cannot intervene.
Yes.
So our technology allows these beach managers and teams to intervene right away. Either they move the nest or they put a more shaded area and so on, so that to bring back the equilibrium, because there's no way this global warming is having a very rapid impact in a very short time.
Very rapid, and even these volunteer team, they really need to act quickly, I'm sure, because it all happened quite quickly. It takes a long time within the nest, but that night that it actually happening, or that day when they get out of the stand, they need to act quickly.
Well, then it's too late, of course, right? Because if incubation takes 60 days, plus or minus 10, depending on temperature, then sometime in the first third of that time during incubation, that's when the sex change occurs, or the sex confirmation occurs. So it's about monitoring the temperature right from the beginning, and they're laying on these beaches for 4 months, right? Okay. And some females will be laying 2 or 3 times in the summer, and so it's about tracking all of this on the beaches, and that's what we're providing.
Around the world, like every beaches would be covered. That's your goal.
Well, there's about 66,000 beaches that are being monitored worldwide.
Okay.
So we're just we're getting into the market this year with our product. It's quite unique because another thing we've done is we've created a sort of a database as a global standard. So whether you're collecting and monitoring all this data into our aggregator in India or Madagascar or the Caribbean in Curaçao or in Florida, everyone's going to be inputting the data in the same database. So the first time ever, scientists from around the world will be able to share their data if they want to, and compare, for example, at a global scale, what type of environments these one species of turtles is going into and what's causing them to select one beach or one area of a beach and so on. This is not usually possible in science. Everyone has their own Excel database and university database, and so it's very difficult to share georeference data because everyone's collecting information in different databases.
I see. This is a wonderful product, wonderful idea. The concept can save so much energy, but also can save so many turtles, so many beautiful little turtles that are coming out in 60,000. You said 6,000 beaches right now that are
being monitored. That's
wonderful. Yes, we will add to the video also your website. Nesting Safe. It's a wonderful concept that you have been working on for so many years, that actually was a build-up of all your experience around the world, and knowing the difficulties, knowing the marine life, and knowing the government rules. So you put all your knowledge together. Congratulations, Don. It's a wonderful project. And I really hope that we'll be able to go deeper into the theory behind what you have created, and learning more about the mussels, les moules et les huîtres. So mussel and oyster, you said they are really sustainable. I'm really happy to learn that, because I love them, but also they're delicious, but also I would like to know how, and why we should pick the which one, and all the factors that we need to count into. So
it's interesting, but when you develop technology, one of the greatest, I'm not an engineer, and it's only because I have an amazing team of engineers, electrical engineers and so on, that we're able to bring the software and the hardware to a level that's really a paradigm shift, because oftentimes in coastal science, there's not many tools available that are applied to what you need to do on the coast. So it's funny, because I'm like an amphibian. I've been into the deep ocean with the shellfish, now on the beach with the turtles, and actually our technology applies somewhat to precision agriculture. So really, it's like an amphibian. So it's quite an interesting area.
It is, and it can go to much deeper and much more broader, actually, intervention. I believe, it starts with these one, but your technology could be used into different sectors. So it's a wonderful start. Thank you very much to bring your concept to life. And to share your project with us. We will give the information, and I'm really looking forward to go into continuing this discussion later on. I really appreciate your contribution to Conscious Strategists, and hopefully we'll have some image also to show of all your exploration within this video. So thank you.
Well, thanks a lot. I just want to say that, one of the big steps now, Montreal, it's a really vibrant startup community, but now even we're at the next stage now of looking for investors and moving this towards the commercial level. So it's a really interesting phase. It's COVID, of course, we should mention, that's been quite a challenge for many, many companies around the world, people working at home. And so this has delayed a lot of the activities on the beaches as well. A lot of less tourists on the beaches. Actually, turtles are coming back more in some areas. But to be able to supply this technology, it takes investment, and it takes scaling up abilities to do that, and finding people, to grow. So that'll be the next step for us in the next month.
So investors, be aware, there's a good project to invest in right here. Thank you so much. Hopefully everything goes as well as you wish. Wish you all the best for the coming months, and please keep up posted with your project, Nesting Safe.
Thank you very much. All right.